All right. Welcome to another interview in this series where we are to find out what actually took place during the 1980s when not so many new dancers were coming in. But then in the 80s, things started to happen again. My name is Eva Burek. I'm on the dance floor. They call me W. And today is December 7th, 2023. And today I have the pleasure to talk with Paul Grecki from Queens, New York. And I'm going to give you a little background here on his bio. So Paul Grecki has been teaching at Sandra Cameron Dance Center since 1981. He studied ballroom dancing with three-time US ballroom champion Sandra Cameron and Lindy Hop with Minns and Frankie Manning, both original dancers of Whitey's Lindy Hoppers. In 1995, Paul won the Lindy Hop division of the American Swing Dance Championships. He was also given the Herbert White Award for his contribution to swing dancing. Paul has taught, lectured, and judged at many swing events in the US and abroad, sharing his enthusiasm and knowledge. Very welcome, Paul. It's so good to have you here.
Hello, Eva. Thank you.
Yeah, good. So, I'm very excited about this. You were very active during this time that we are capturing here, and you have had the chance to be around Al Minns a lot, and also Frankie in Sandra Cameron Swing Dance, and I should say Dance Center. And we will, definitely cover all of that. And since Al sadly passed away early, was it 85? Al passed?
85, that's right. And he was 65 years old.
How old?
65 when he passed.
Yeah, so he was young.
He was pretty young, yeah.
Yeah, but you had a chance to spend a lot of time with him, so I'm excited to hear about your experience and you sharing that with us. But before we go there, so as we heard, you have a background as ballroom dancer. So can you give us a little bit of background? How did it start for you with ballroom, and how did you find your way into Lindy Hop?
Sure. Let me say that probably 1978, I became interested in doing ballroom dancing. Truthfully, when I was young, I used to watch those Fred Astaire movies, and I on the sneak would dance a little bit, trying to learn those learn those steps. But I always had an interest in ballroom dancing, and it started with my going to, I saw an ad for 10 lessons for $10 at a Fred Astaire dance studio in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And I took those 10 lessons, and after that, I became more interested and found in the Network for Learning, there was a paper that used to circulate in Manhattan for like local groups of different types of things, classes in different subjects. And I saw a class with this woman, Sandra Cameron, and it was a 4-week course in ballroom dancing. So I went to the class, and after that I met Sandra, and from there I just continued to study with her, and eventually she offered me a job at the studio. Wound up happening, I wasn't working, and I told her I couldn't continue dance classes, and so she offered me a job. She said, if you work for me, you can work for me and still take classes. And so that was great. And so that's how I got into the whole business.
Awesome. Wow. So when you worked for her, you were teaching ballroom then with her, or for her, or what did you do?
I'm sorry. In the beginning, I wasn't teaching. Obviously, I was still training with her, so she was just teaching me. I worked at the desk as like a receptionist and registering people for classes, and that's how it started. And then eventually, I became manager of the studio. And all along, she was training me. And truthfully, I did not want to become a teacher.
Why not?
I didn't think that I didn't think it would be I don't know, just wasn't. I like to dance, but I wasn't as interested at that time in teaching. I thought I didn't want to get stuck in that. I figured it was better to do the managing. But she convinced me. She said, "Oh, you should teach. You should teach." So she put me in a couple of classes, and after a while, I just kept teaching.
So at that point, when you were just training and learned and managing the place, what was your ambition with the dance? What did you see yourself? Was it just for the fun of it, or did you like, oh, maybe one day I?
Well, I wasn't looking at, like I said, I wasn't looking at it as a particular profession, to be a professional dancer. I was just working and studying and just learning. I really didn't think that far ahead. I was just basically just living from day to day.
Yeah.
I just fell into that.
Great. What a great chance.
Yeah.
To live your life in the studio and be around it all.
Yeah. And Sandra was very encouraging. After I started to learn with her, I knew I needed a partner. So I brought my sister in to study, and we studied together. And eventually we performed together at the school. Sandra had these performance classes, and we would perform together. And she was trying to encourage us to do some amateur ballroom competitions. But at that time, I wasn't interested in any of that. So we never did. And then eventually my sister kind of dropped out. And that's when I just kept training and eventually became a teacher.
So what year did you join Sandra in her? When did you find her?
I believe it was probably 1978, maybe even 77. I think more, yeah, between 77 and 78 was the time I probably found her.
You go back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long did you stay with her in the studio?
Well, from beginning to end?
Yeah.
Oh, well, until she closed, I guess 30 years at least, maybe.
So
Yeah,
do you remember when she closed? When did she close the studio?
Oh, when did she close the studio? I don't know the exact date. Let me see, because what happened was after I worked for her for about 20 years or more, I found another job to work days because my kids started going to school, and so I wanted to be home at night. So I got a job working with the post office, actually.
Of course.
Yeah. And I worked for the post office, but I still continued to teach part-time, like two days, maybe sometimes 3 days a week. And then that started to dwindle down to one night a week I would go in and teach. And I kept my foot in the door. And then eventually the studio did close. I don't remember the exact, probably, let me think. I'm not sure. You do best to ask her, that. I'm not sure on the exact date, but it was great.
Yeah. But do you remember the year, or about approximately the year?
The year.
And we can check that out. So you don't have, if it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So here you are with Sandra, and so how did they bring in Al? How did that happen and come about? Because he wasn't there. Al wasn't there teaching from the beginning, right?
Right. Correct. We had a studio. We had a few studios. We moved from, I think it was 59th or 57th Street in Manhattan. It might have been 59th Street was the first studio. Then we moved to 20 West 20th Street. That's where that's where Al came, and that's where it started. How I remember, Larry Schultz worked for NBC, and he was doing, I believe he did like specials on NBC, news specials, and he was a reporter, and he got in contact somehow. He got in contact with Al and with those dances. I remember going to a Mama Lou Parks event with Larry and Al. That's where I think I remember the first time I met Al was there, and I think that's how we first met him. And then after that, he was brought to the studio, and Larry really was the one who introduced me. I'm not sure if you talk to Sandra how he met her Al, you'd probably find out better. But I remember him being Larry Schultz basically introduced me to Al Minns.
And what was Larry's part in? So Sandra, she was teacher at her dance center, and what was Larry's position there?
Larry was he had no position at the studio other than I think he was, I don't know if they were married at that time, but they were dating, and he was just interested in dance, so he would always come and help her at the studio. The very first time I went to the studio, he was assisting her in the class, so he was ballroom dancing in the class, and I believe he was her student. So that's how they were involved. And eventually, of course, they got married. So he was helping her. It was interesting because at the time in New York, before I actually went to the studio, I remember going to a couple of dance places because I like to dance, and I didn't know anything. I didn't formally learn any dancing, but I used to go places to dance. And I remember going to a few places that had jazz music because I love jazz. And the Village Gate was one place that I went in particular. And they had a band there playing, a big band, and they had a dance floor. And I noticed people were getting up on the dance floor, and I didn't know how to do that type of dancing, but I would watch them, and I would try to imitate, and I would ask someone to dance and get up on the floor and dance. And what was interesting is the first time I saw Lindy hop or something similar to it, they had a dance contest, and I watched it that night, and there were like 3 or 4 couples, and there was a ballroom couple, and oddly enough, it may have even been Sandra, or she may have been dancing. I don't know. I never asked her that, but there was an older couple came, black couple, and they got on the dance floor, and they were such beautiful dancers. I don't know who they were, but they won the contest. And it was so lovely to see them dance. And I remember seeing and knowing that, wow, there's a real difference in that, because you have to remember, like, that was from the 40s and 30s, those people had that was their dance, from that time period. So when you got younger people or people not from that period dancing, they dance different, it wasn't bad, it was just different, but you got a different feeling from that. And I remember that being my first exposure to seeing something like that. Other than maybe my mother dancing with my aunt and my uncle, they would dance, but at that time I maybe wasn't as interested, so I didn't notice it as much. But my mother would always dance around the house. She was a good dancer and beautiful singer, and so I mean, I had exposure to that type of music, and at an early age, so anyway, when I saw that, that was probably the first time I saw it in New York, and the clubs started to have that kind of music happening. And
so
there was some.
I sorry for interrupting you. So do you remember which place it was that had that competition, that the contest you went to?
Yeah, the Village Gate. It was called the Village Gate.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That was one place that's the one place that I remember going where they had that little dance competition. And then the Red Blazer 2 was another place that I used to go that had real old-time musicians and a small dance floor, and people would get up and dance. This all started happening like the same time. It's an odd thing because I started to notice more and more of those opportunities to dance in these places, but it wasn't frequented by like young people, really. It was like a mixture, mostly middle-aged, a few young people, but it wasn't that popular, I guess, but the music was great. It was really great. And so that place was, yeah.
Yeah. So when you, as a ballroom dancer, and you saw Lindy for the first time, what was the impression? What did you think about it?
Oh, well, it was really exciting. It was really exciting to see to see something, a dance that you thought like, because, you know, when you studied ballroom and you learned swing, you were dancing to that music, but it was similar, but not similar. I mean, it was different. It was just, what was my impression? Exciting. It was
Was it
exciting and
like, I want to learn this? Was it that kind of thing, or?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why the one good fortune I had was that Sandra had such great insight. Her school was primarily based on teaching authentic social dancing. And
Mm.
Larry was totally for that. And not just in swing, but in every style. She would always bring authentic dances from each culture, from each style of dance, like the best. She would really find the best people. And not anything to do with competition, all just to do with great social dancing. And she would always have those people train the teachers. She was unique in that way. I mean, I've never, even there were other schools popping up. No one ever did that. They just stuck with the whatever was that ballroom style, they called it, you know, and that, like, even the Fred Astaire schools and those type of schools, no one ever really taught the authentic, try to capture that authentic feeling.
So when it come to Lindy and was it anyone teaching social Lindy before Al, before he stepped in?
No, not that I know of, not in that way. You know, later I may have heard that there was a school called Albert Butler's Dance Studio that closed just as Sandra's studio started coming out, and they taught social dancing, and there were some old time people like Johnny Lucchese, and Peter DeFalco. A few of these people were teaching social dance, but even in that, their style of Lindy was different. It wasn't the same. It was almost like an in between the 30s and 40s style. And I don't know what it was, but it was different. I guess they had influence through the ballroom too in some way. I'm not sure. You know how people, I always felt the social dance people, the people who dance socially and develop the dance, always dance different from people who try to write it down and make it a syllabus and teach it. You know what I'm saying? Something gets lost because it's not coming from those original people. It's coming from people who see it and try to imitate it. And it's hard to imitate a feeling. You know what I mean? You have to have a feeling, and I think I think they tried their best to make it close to what it was, but it never really comes out the same.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I hear you. So so if you would so you were teaching, you start to teach. So once Al stepped in, he started to teach around 81. Is that what that be?
81. That's right. He came to the studio in 1981. I think it was the fall of 1981.
But before we go there, let's stay a little bit more with the center here. So they so was it like, okay, so we have Al available. Was it like, let's bring Al and more people in and start something, or it started with Al and then Frankie came in later? Was it like trickling, growing more and more once Al was in, or was it, how was the beginning? Maybe how when Al started, maybe we should go there.
Oh, okay. Well, you have to understand. So the studio was in operation for a couple of years, and we were teaching swing, and we were developing students in ballroom and swing. So we did have like quite a few young people interested in dancing. And so they were always in the classes, and I was teaching swing classes on a Wednesday night. And I had a group, and I was developing a group of people. And at that point, when Al came in, we got really excited, and I started to study with Al. And Sandra thought, wow, this is really great. And so I talked to Sandra and I said, you know, we should have Al teach classes on Wednesdays when the same night, you know, like get these people to come and take his classes, you know. And after a while, because in the beginning he came into the studio, but he was just teaching privately, like he was teaching myself, my wife, Sandra, was studying with him. Larry was studying with him, and we even had some private students, other people studying with him privately, who just wanted to do that. And so after that, we encouraged him to teach the class, you know. And there was kind of in the beginning, it was. I think there was some concern with whether or not, as a teacher, you know, because there was a system of how like to count and to teach students something, and if it would work, you know, because he wasn't going to do that, you know, it was a different way of teaching. And so it was great. Once he stepped into the class, he started to teach, and it was really enjoyable, and more of the students started to see how much fun it was, and they wanted to come and take the class with him. And so yeah, I mean, that's how it started. And then from there, it just continued to build interest, you know. It wasn't like in the heydays of the swing where 60 people would come in class. They were smaller classes, you have to understand. There weren't that many people, but enough to make it work, you know, to make the class continue.
So so the studio, the center, was a little hesitant, it sounds like, whether this is going to work with Al. How did he feel about it? Was he hesitant? Was he like all gung-ho and like, yeah, let's do this?
Well, no, Al was willing to do anything. Yeah, he was happy to work, to do some teaching and to share what he had. You know, he was happy once he got into the classes. He was very willing to do it. When he was in front of people dancing, it was just like a light in him. It was really, you could tell he just loved it so much, and he just made everyone else love it so much. Yeah, he was a great teacher. He really was a great teacher, I have to say.
Did he teach at all before Sandra brought him into the center?
Not that I know of, no.
Did he social dance? Was it out there and social dancing, went to different?
I believe he was social dancing at some of the clubs, some of the we never saw him at the clubs that I had frequented. I didn't see him other than Mamalu Parks that first time. And then afterwards, though, after he started teaching, we started to see him come to then he would come to some of these clubs, because he knew like the students were there and stuff, and he could dance with people as well. So he maybe felt more, you know, comfortable coming to those clubs.
Yeah. What was his connection to Mamalu Parks? Do you know?
I don't. I do remember that evening though, and sitting with him. Mamalu Parks had I think it was called a rock and roll competition at that time. She called it Rock and Roll Championship, I believe. And that year, and we went there, and we were sitting all together, and Al was commenting about he was commenting about the dancers who would come out. They would do one routine. All of them would do the same routine, and then they would judge it at the competition. And it was the stops routine. I don't know if you know of that. Al said, "Oh, that's the stops routine," and he was a little surprised that like no one was really dancing, like they all did the same routine. I think he was like, well, what is this, like, you know? But I think that's what Mamalu Parks knew and taught all those people, and they kind of came out. It was almost like a performance, but they were supposedly competing.
So the groups, let me understand that. So let's say it's 4 couples on the floor. So they were competing. They did the same thing. They did the stops, but they were competing against each other. Those 4.
Yeah, I don't think they all came out at the same time. If I remember, they all came out maybe individually, and they all did the routine once.
Okay.
the same routine, and then they were kind of judged on that.
And
That's what I remember.
Was it other competitors in that, or was just her dancers competing?
Just her dances, pretty much. And then they had other events. They had like a guy come out and do a Roomba, and it was interesting. They had other events, and Al was always he would make you laugh because the comments he would come up with. He didn't seem to like the standard of the dancing, honestly. Truthfully, that's my impression.
And did he express that? Did he talk about that and share that, or was more it just came out like that, in comments, or was it, something that he was really?
Well, he didn't understand. Yeah, he did comment once about he didn't understand why they would be dancing so fast. Like he just thought they were jumping around a lot, and he thought like that wasn't really. I don't know. Maybe he knew because of where he came from, and he just felt that maybe he didn't. To me, he seemed to not. Yeah, he just seemed to think that maybe the standard wasn't, or the style of the dancing. He didn't. I don't know. It's hard for me to say.
Yeah, of course. Here we are saying like, what do you think Al thought about this?
Yeah. I mean,
that's
all I could say is he did comment about
yeah.
the routine, and that he was surprised that they
Sure.
didn't dance individual steps or things like that.
So when it comes to Al in class, what did he emphasize? What do you think if he met when he started with beginners and worked with them for a while, what was his foundation that he thought this is the most important thing about Lindy Hop? I want to stay here. This is what we focus on. This is where I hang out in this room when it comes to the Lindy and foundational stuff about the dance. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. His emphasis was on rhythm, on the musicality, the music, and the musicality. He would always spend time. He start very simple. He would start with teaching very basic, like the jig walk was the first thing, and just trying to get you to dance comfortable together and get the rhythm and the feeling. And after that, he would show some. He would dance like. He would always warm up the class with like a shim sham, and he would do like a shim sham, and he would get people doing the jazz steps and trying to feel the rhythm and the music, and then he would partner you up, and he would do this start with like also the swing out. He would emphasize the rhythm. It was really the rhythm, I would say at that point, the rhythm and simple movement. He would work with single time, like swing out, no triple time in the beginning. He would just emphasize how to get that accented beat to start and move and back and forth and the swing out. And that was one thing I remember particularly that was he would do. Also, he really tried to get the women. He was a great woman. He would imitate.
He was a great woman.
Oh my God, he could dance the woman's part so amazing. And when he would do it, I really, some of the women would tell me in the class they were intimidated because they felt like embarrassed not to be able to move as well as that. And he was such a great, because he was a very fluid dancer. You have to remember, very different quality of dancing. Like he was a jazz dancer, that's maybe, he just can move. And he always talked about, when I would talk to him, he'd talk about his inspiration was Snake Hips, that guy's. He said he tried to copy. He loved watching him. He said that was a big inspiration on him, and he liked that movement and that quality of movement. But he's such a great dancer. He can pretty much imitate any style of dance. Yes.
So did he change his character when he was a follower, when he took the following part?
Absolutely. Yeah. He was it was amazing. It was really, really fun.
So
Really fun.
was this recorded? Was it like, let's make sure we record this and and collect it and
Uh,
stuff? Did someone think in those terms? Like,
No, not at that time, and it's interesting because later we got recording equipment. We started to record lessons and just to have them as a reference for teachers to continually look back on. So at that time, no, sadly, no, we didn't record that. But there's a lot of Larry, had him in shows and stuff. So there's a lot of footage on Al dancing. You can see, you can get a sense of that. But yeah, it's a shame that wasn't, because that was so great. Great. But you could see it in the Muradane. When you see him dance some of those things, you can see how fluid of a dancer he was in those films.
The students that went there, did they seek him out? Did they know who he was? And like, this is a big deal. Or they were like, oh, let's go and learn some Lindy.
No, we were the ones who told the students. We encouraged them more. I did, and Sandra, we said, you should dance. You should take this person's class. Take this person's class. They didn't really know. No, at that time. It's not like it is today, where everyone's interested in the history. They didn't really know, but when they went in class, they knew how great it was to take a class with him and how much fun it was. And he really was a happy person teaching everyone. He made everyone feel great.
And how did his way of teaching and adjust to the students change from when he came in new to it? It's like he was a new teacher, and then he got more and more experienced, and the people grow with him. So how could you tell that Al was changing his ways, or as a teacher?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think he grew. He was really smart. He was able to adapt and he was able to count and break things down. It wasn't like he just did it without explaining it. He had a different sense of how to get it across to students, and he saw how other people taught in the studio too. And he started to see, oh, well, maybe I could do it this way. I think he did adapt and change a little bit. He learned, because he's a smart person. He took things that maybe he felt he could help him to get across to students. I know in the beginning, it's like anything. If students are learning one particular method in one particular manner, and then they go into another person who doesn't use those methods or manners, they need a time to adjust to that. But it's just as good and just as valid. It doesn't mean that you can't learn in a different manner. It's just what you get used to. And so it encouraged me to teach different. His teaching method changed my teaching method, because when I started to see how he taught, and I've been teaching one way, and I was successful in getting people to dance, but I realized I was missing a whole aspect of dancing to the music. And so his way encouraged me to change my way. And so I learned something from him as well.
So more specifically, what did you grab from Al's way? How did you use his knowledge and focus on rhythm and musicality? What did you bring in? How do you remember anything in particular that, I started doing this because Al inspired me to do that?
Mostly listening to the music, taking the time to feel the music, to get the students to have the time to feel the music, because when you teach an hour class sometimes and you have an agenda of what you like them to learn, sometimes it becomes mechanical. And you can manage that and you can get a kind of like a result. But really, if you like I noticed Al would take the time to make them feel the music, and maybe what they are learning would seem so much less to them, like because they don't have like all these steps. But they leave with something much deeper. They leave with a feeling that starts to be more ingrained in their dancing. And I think that's what I learned from Al, to take more time to emphasize let them listen and learn it in their body, not just in their head. You see, there's a difference.
Yeah,
Like
I love that.
it's easy to teach them in their head. You know, people could copy and dance, but when you look at them dance, they're not connected to the music, and they're not really dancing from inside. They're dancing from outside. It's a little different feeling.
I have a few different questions in my head at the same time. Did he count, or did he scat? Did he explain things with words, or was it more like, look at me, I do this, and then people copied him? How did he? Yeah.
He would mostly, from doing it, he would do it in front of the students and they would follow him. That was the main thing. It wasn't, counting really wasn't a big part of it. No.
Yeah.
Later he did. Later he was able to, count, because I think he understood that I'm not sure if that was influenced maybe by Sandra or Larry. I know Larry had difficulty. I remember him saying, because he didn't understand how to just follow Al. He wanted it counted, and Al really, it wasn't about counting. That's like in your head, and so it's more about the feeling in your body. And no, he mostly did it, and students imitated him. He would help students to get that feeling, and he would demonstrate it a lot. And that's how we did it. We pretty much were copying him. And if you had the good fortune, I had the good fortune privately with him. He would take me in his arms, and I remember him, physically move me, and he would show me different things. And one time in a lesson, he was showing me how low they dance to the floor on performance type style, like when they did, when he would swing out, and like how low. And I remember him pushing me down on my back with his hand, saying, no, lower, lower. And I would say, what? I said, I'm almost touching the floor. And he would laugh. He said, no, lower. He said, I'm going to break your back. I remember he told me, I'm going to break your back. You see what happened, and it's funny because I went to ballroom dancing. Sandra just kept telling me, stand up, because when you ballroom dance, you have to stand up, so good posture. So I trained for years in good posture, and then I get with Al, and I'll say, no, I'm going to break your back. And he kept pushing me down, and it was funny. That was one incident that I remembered that was funny.
When you worked with Al, were Al the follower and you were the leader, or did you take turn? Did you move it around? So you learned.
Both. Like most of the time, he would show me how to do the man's part, and then he would be the woman. And it was hysterical dancing, and because it was hard to. Sometimes I would laugh. He was such a great woman, and what he would do would crack me up. It was so great, and I just had to try to concentrate. It would really be fun. He was great, and then we would reverse it. Then he would say, "Look, this is the feeling you need to have," and then he'd take me, and I would do the woman's part, and he would lead me, and he would say, "This is the feeling that you need to have when you do this step." And so, yeah, it was great. And the good thing was eventually, I took my wife Carol came in. I did take some other women that one or two lessons, but mostly with Carol and we did with Al. And then as a couple, it was, he could really shape us into and give us an idea of how that worked. And I was fortunate because Carol, she had such an instinct for dance, beautiful, from when she grew up. She always could do all those rock and roll, like the mashed potato, all those natural movements, really great. So she was very fluid in that, and so she picked it up fast. She was very good. I like dancing with her.
Yes, I can tell. Yeah, sounds great. So what's the biggest gift that Al gave you?
Just the love of dancing. He encouraged to be more just free with the dancing. I guess, and also also one of the gifts was, yeah, I guess it's just that openness and that willingness to share and to give, like not just about dancing, but as a person.
Mhm.
He was very kind
Mhm.
and very open and very willing to share his talent, and that in itself is a great that to me, like that made me feel, wow, like he is this great person and he's so open to giving and sharing what he has. Makes you a better person, I think. I think that that's what he did for me. He taught me that, and
Mhm.
it's beautiful to see that, and his sense of humor was great too. He had a real sense of humor, Al.
It's I can see, I mean, the way you express your face, and when you think about it, it's like he's still in here, and when you think about him, you just like light up.
Oh,
So I can
yeah,
tell it's just hit a special chord when you think about him. So how much
yeah.
time did you spend with him, working with him? How much was it, like once a week, or did you see him? How much did you do?
Oh yeah, we did about once a week. We would do a lesson for since he was there till he wasn't there. We would always, anytime he was available, I would schedule lessons with him, and we would do lessons together. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really great. And what was nice is because I want you to understand, it wasn't when I learned from Al and Frankie, I always shared what I knew as soon as I understood it a little bit. And so I never held back anything that I was given. I always, even when I would go back, because I was still teaching at that time, so I was teaching in my own classes, I always would teach, try to put that stuff into the lessons as well and share that, because I was continuing learning. So I was getting better and I
Mhm.
wanted to share that. I didn't, so uh, I felt that that was important, because, that's the point. It's just to get people to dance well and to understand the music. And of course, it's coming out different from me, it's not the same thing. It's just what it is. But still, it does influence you.
Mhm.
If you're smart enough to know that,
Mhm.
sometimes people don't, maybe, I don't know, but I knew how good what he taught was and how beautiful it was. And I wanted to try and express it and share it too. But, it's another step down from the original. So,
And what did Al think about this new time where people came into the studio instead of learning on the social dance floor that he was used to, I suppose, growing up during the heydays? But what did he think about this new time and different kind of music influences that was around, and people coming into a dance studio? And what did he think about that? And did he think about, yeah, like this
oh,
new time for
I
it?
think he was very excited about it, actually.
Yeah,
He was happy to see that they were dancing to this music.
yeah.
Younger generation. He was really excited to see young people interested in it. And just in general, being in the dance studio, he really liked it. He would come early and they would have like classes before, and he would watch. He would look in the rooms and see people dancing. And I just think he loved being in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
He loved being around dancing,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't matter. And he just enjoyed that. And, I really felt he had a nice time at the studio when he was there. He would sit out and watch. And I remember the one time he he came early, and we would sit together, we'd talk before his class would start. And he was pretty early this time, and it was an aerobic class supposed to be taught, and the teacher didn't show up. And Sandra and I were looking, all right, we got to tell all these women, there were about like 10, 15 women, there's no class today. And Al said, wait a minute, I'll teach them. And that was amazing. He went in there. He had these leggings on because he had bought these leggings. I remember he showed me, and he put those on his legs. And he went in that class, and he did all jazz steps in Charleston. And I'll tell you, those women couldn't keep up with him. And at the end, they, when's the other teacher coming back? You know. He did Charleston's and he did snake hips and he did all this fish tails, and he was doing all that women's stuff that I told you that, and they were all like, they couldn't keep up with him, and they were like, oh man. And he did a whole hour.
Did he put it as a sequence routine, or he just did one move for a while and then moved into the next thing?
Yeah, he did nothing planned. He just put on the music and said, okay, follow me. And that's it. And he did everything to keep I mean, you talk about aerobic. This was.
And he had tempo. The tempo was up.
Oh, yeah. And this is a man in his 60s. You got to remember. And these women are in their 20s or 30s, and they can keep up with him.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's really fun.
All in his leggings.
Yeah, what a great sport. What a great sport. Yeah, he was really funny in that. And then he came out, and then he took a 10-minute break and taught his own class, you know.
Yeah. I heard Denise, Almin's daughter, Denise, said that he called himself a jazz dancer versus Lindy Hopper. How does that land when you hear that? Is that something he said? Had you heard that before?
I don't remember him referring to either or, really. But knew he was, you know, he's just a great dancer. He's a jazz dancer and a Lindy dancer, you know. You know, I never heard him say he never really I never heard him say anything like that. Yeah, to be truthful, you know. Maybe in the family he said that, you know.
What kind of music did he use for teaching?
Well, let's see. It wasn't he didn't use really fast music per se. I mean, it was different. I can't think of the exact I think the music that he didn't bring music, so it was like what was in the studio for the most part, but then he would ask for particular music and we would find it for him. You know, just I don't remember him. Maybe some Count Basie. I know he used Benny Goodman, a little bit like similar music to what Frankie would use. You know, I can't offhand. I don't remember the exact music, but it was always changing. Sometimes I would bring in some music. I would put on Boogie Woogie or something. He would, you know, and he would dance to it. He was pretty flexible with the music. He wasn't that particular, but he didn't want to dance. He didn't want them to dance fast. He wanted them to learn at a nice pace.
Yeah. And was it just pure social, or did he put together routines? Or was it?
He didn't do routines other than the Big Apple. I remember that was like the same he would do as a warm up in the class. And then he would just teach the steps and have people try like the steps, the swing out, and maybe go to a particular, you know, use those moves. But I don't remember him per se doing it as an exact routine and repeating the routine. Not like that. More a little looser in the class, especially in the beginning. Yeah.
And did you discuss like what the future would bring, what's waiting in the future? You know, is it like, oh, did you feel like even, so he passed 85, so he was there for 4 years?
You mean Al?
Yeah, or was it there shorter maybe when he started? What happened when he started to get
81 and he died? When did he die? He died in 85. Yeah, so he was there for a couple of years. That's right.
Yeah. And could you tell that he was growing? The interest was growing during those years?
Sure. Yeah, sure. More and more people came on his class, and we had him teaching on Saturday in the beginning. And the Saturday was good, but then the reason we moved it to Wednesday is because we had other swing classes on Wednesday, and we had a little practice after for the students to dance. And so we thought, why don't we put them on the same night where like mostly the people are coming to learn swing. And so it worked out better because then they got to dance a little at the practice, and I think it brought more people. And Saturday was a little hard. There was some people came regularly on Saturday, but it was a little more isolated. And so it worked better on a night when there were other people doing swing, because then they can watch his class if they didn't know, and they could see, because we had the glass doors, and so they could see the class going on, and they would be maybe interested in taking it. And you know, it's hard to sell any class at that time, really, but the more the students can observe it, maybe they get excited about it, you know, and they would come to take class.
And did they advertise it as swing or Lindy Hop, or what did they call it?
No, they I believe we put it as it may have been listed as Lindy or Lindy Hop. I'm trying to look at, let me see what the flyer said. I think we listed the particular dances. I have a flyer here that.
Can you show us? Can you put it up to the screen so we can see?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. If I can find it, I will. Let's see. If you give me a second, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. No worries.
Here's one.
And Paul, when you say Big Apple as a warm-up, was it just he was in the middle and then, oh, there you go. Stomping at the Savoy, Almonds, Lindy Hop, Charleston, Big Apple, 4-week course, $35 Saturdays at the studio, special college student. Okay, great.
So that was like one of the early, that was in June. Yeah. So that's how it started. It was an 1.5-hour class. And so that's how it was listed: Lindy Hop, Charleston, and Big Apple.
So when he taught the Big Apple, he did that as a routine, but what did he do with Big Apple? Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, he would just teach the individual steps, and then he put the music on, and everybody would just follow him. You know, it was like a line dance kind of, and he would do that, and he would do the. That's it. That's right. It was it wasn't the shim sham he taught in the beginning. Now, because I'm remembering Frankie, it was the Big Apple that Al taught. That's what he was teaching in the beginning. And then you know, the Charleston and the Lindy Hop, those were parts of the class. Like he would teach some Lindy Hop steps, and then he would teach some Charleston steps. And the Charleston steps were done separate. They weren't like partner Charleston steps, other than some like he would do hand-to-hand Charleston, or like very, and then he did the front to back Charleston, and he would do some partner Charlestons, but some of them were like separate Charlestons, you know, where he would just do this Charleston steps and everyone would follow him.
Yeah, so not like necessarily to combine with the Lindy Hop. It was a separate class, so you didn't need a partner necessarily, or
well, no, it was the one class. He would do he would teach all of that in the one class, like a little bit of everything. So you know, he would teach a little bit, like maybe one Charleston step, and everybody would do it, or teach the Big Apple, and then he'd teach a swing out and the jig walk and some steps, and have people dance together, and that's basically the structure of the class. Yeah.
Okay. So it was 4 weeks, but he mixed the Lindy with the Charleston with the Big Apple.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything was in the 1 hour or 1.5-hour class. Yeah. He would just teach a little bit of everything. Like I said, he'd start with the Big Apple steps, and then and it was kind of like it wasn't so strict in structure. You know, he kind of was free to do what he felt he wanted to teach it at the time.
So great. So how did it happen? So how was the transition over to Frankie? How did that take place, and why? Did they teach at the same time, or was it the idea that, or the fact that Al sadly passed, so they had to bring in a different teacher? Or how was the transition happening?
Right, exactly. I think, yeah, what happened was Al passed away, basically. You know, after that happened, Larry, before that, had gotten in touch with a number of the original Lindy Hoppers, because he had a reunion at the studio. I remember, and Frankie came there, and that's when he saw Frankie dancing, and so and he's, you know, there were again, like I said, there were clubs that we were starting to go to and frequent, that a lot of the original Lindy Hoppers were showing up in social dancing, so you got to see some. But Larry found Frankie as well, and invited him to the studio. And before he started teaching at the studio, we had him do private lessons with myself, Sandra, Larry, and my wife. And actually, Carol was pregnant at that time. And Frankie was teaching all of us. And we went through like a whole syllabus of all this great stuff that Frankie did. And that we actually later recorded. But after that, then Sandra talked to Larry, and yeah, we said, like, would Frankie be interested in teaching? And he was, and he was great. And he just stepped in and started teaching at the studio. It was really great. Yeah, it was fortunate. Yeah.
So how do you compare Frankie with Al? What was their different styles? How would you separate them, or what did they have in common?
Well, the obvious thing to me was Al was more a lyrical dancer. He was much looser and freer and more upright in his dancing. He had that quality of movement, and Frankie was a more emphasis on, actually, and they both emphasized rhythm, but Frankie was more emphasis on rhythm dancing. His style of dancing was very focused and tighter in respect to Al's. Al had a different quality of social dancing. He was more upright in his dancing socially, and you know, Frankie was more down in his dancing. Right, he would get down, and I remember Larry Schultz telling me once that Al said to Larry, now this is, you know, taken through what I remember, that if you drop a ton of bricks on Frankie Manning, he would still keep time. And I remember that Al said that to Larry Schultz, and it's true. It's amazing. And so that's the obvious thing to me. The one, I believe, is a more lyrical dancer, and the other is more emphasis on rhythm dancing.
Did Frankie and Al, did they hang out? Did they stay in touch before Al passed during that time? Do you know?
I wouldn't know that. Yeah.
And the reunion that happened at the studio, was that before Al passed? Was he part of that, or that was after?
Yeah, no, that was part of it. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's sometime, if you ever, you know, I mean, Larry is struggling a little bit now with, I think, dementia a little bit, maybe, but I'm not sure. But if you ever get a chance, talk to Sandra and Larry. Yeah, maybe you know, you might be able to get some more on that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So do you remember any names that came to the reunion that we would, you know, recognize?
Let's see.
Was Norma around at all?
Norma was there.
Yeah.
Norma was there, and Billy Ricker was there, and Sonny Allen was there. Sugar Sullivan was there. There were a few others that I wasn't as familiar with their names, but who were the female dancers. I'm sorry to say, you know, who would know. Again, you can ask Sandra. Sandra probably has a list of who those people are who were there. But those are the few that I can remember.
Yeah, great. And was it a point that Larry put Al together with Sugar?
Yes.
And was that a special occasion, or what did they do together?
Oh, well, there was I think he was trying to form some performance. They were introduced as a partner to do a show, I think at the Riverside Church originally. And then after that, they danced. Larry got them to do, was getting performances arranged for them to do together. Again, you're best to talk to Sandra about that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, now I'm just picking around here and see what comes back.
No, that's okay.
And then, so Al went to Sweden and came back. What did you think about that trip?
What did he think about it? Yeah, it was awesome. He was very excited about it, actually, and he was happy to go. He sent me a postcard. I still have it somewhere. If I find it, I'll show it to you. No, he was excited and wanted to see what that was about. And when he came back, he said, "Oh wow, they were really, they really treated me great, and it was really fun to do the classes." That's all I remember. I mean, he enjoyed it a lot. I know he said he enjoyed it a lot.
And I started the year after, so I just missed Al. So for me, it was the talk of the town that Al had been there and how he had influenced everybody and what happened after he left. So I heard a lot about Al and how great that visit was for the Swedes. I had a chance to dance and practice with him, but I sadly missed that chance. So going to Sweden, was it like, oh, it started to happen, outside of this space? Did he did he have a chance to meet other people coming into New York early on that also that was new into the scene or had been doing it for a while that came to see him? Do you know that looked him up?
As far as I know, I don't know of many, but I know that once, I believe maybe the English group came over.
Yeah.
I forget his name now, the one who danced.
Jiving Lindy Hoppers? Was it Ryan or Warren?
It was Warren, and I think maybe Ryan was with them, and they came and they may have met Al at the studio once. I believe that happened, and then maybe that's the only one I remember. But I heard Aaron Stevens supposedly came once. He may have came one day and met Al. But I don't remember clearly, but I believe that he might have been the other person that's outside of New York that I know came to see Al after the scene was starting to happen.
Yeah. And then Frankie came in and started to teach. And so if Al's focus was musicality and rhythm and jig walk and really spending time with people to let them feel it, where did Frankie start with his students when they were new and when he met them? Where was his focus and say this is a foundation?
Always the music too. Always the music. And he was great choreographer, so he was able to tie material together in such a creative way that made it so much fun to dance the steps together. So he was able to give like little routines in his classes, which were great. Like, everyone would learn the routine to the music, and he would have you do it over and over, and so it really ingrained the dance in you in that way. Did
he bring his own music?
Yes. Yeah, Frankie always brought his own music.
Yeah. And was it on tapes?
On cassette tapes, yeah.
Tapes, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. The only thing is, I don't remember if Al brought his own music. I recall us giving him music that time. Him asking for particular music, and we had all the music. He just would have to ask for what he would like to use in his class, and
Oh, you mean Frankie or Al now? Are you talking?
I mean Al. Frankie had his own music. Yeah. He always brought his own music.
Yeah. And then was it like a social aspect of this dance center? Was it like, and then now we have a social dance tonight, or all of us from the school goes over here and dance at this ballroom over here? Was it that?
Well, the studio always had practice sessions on Friday night, and where we would play all music, not just swing. So all the students would come Friday night for sure to practice. Later on, we started to do separate practices, and that changed it. But a lot of times, the students we would all go out to the different clubs, because and Frankie would come, or Al would come. And at the time when we were at Dow, he would come to like 7th Avenue South was City Limits. That's really, I feel, was a big change when the swing scene started to grow. There was a club called City Limits, and they used to have live bands every night. And on Wednesday night, they had Stan Bronstein and Swing Fever. That was the name of his band. And on Wednesday nights, we would go down there, and it was a dance floor, and we would dance to his band. And then eventually we asked the club if we could do classes before they open on the night in the club. And they said yes. And so we put flyers on the tables. And that was the first time we started doing dance class. I would teach the dance classes in the club before they opened. And then the band would come on, and so the students were there already to dance with the live music. And so that was a big plus, because people wanted to go out to dance. You know, they didn't want to necessarily stay in the studio. They liked the studio, but it was more fun to go in the club and dance. And that really, I remember Al would come to that, and social dance, and we all sit at the same table. We get up, everybody would be dancing with each other. And that was really good. And that's where I met Margaret Batichuk, and her partner was George Lloyd, and he would dance there. And I remember Al and George, and we would all sit together, and that was one place. And then Small's Paradise was another place that everyone would go, and they had a live band, and people would social dance. And Smalls, you would see a lot of, like, you would see Frankie on occasion, or different people dancing as well. But we weren't really connected with all those people. But Al would come to that and social dance. And I'm trying to think of some other places. There were quite a few at that time to go to.
So is this the time where they formed New York Swing Dance Society? Was that so City Limits, was that in
85? Yeah, that was like let's see, that was in 1985. The students, yeah, that's what happened.
What happened between the New York Swing Dance Society? So they had classes, right, before the dance, and then you have the studio. Was it any, like, where did people go and belong, or was it all a big mingle, big happy family, or was it all of a sudden like more places open up to give classes? And was it a competitive environment?
No. Well, no. What happened was, I'll tell you the story if you want
All this,
to know.
I want to hear all the secrets, all the dirty secrets.
I didn't want to bring it up, but I had a group of students. And at that time, I encouraged them to do routines together, dance together at the studio. We had like little performance. And, you have to understand, I was just learning the Lindy Hop. And so it was, it wasn't like today's performances, but it was something that I watched Frankie's. I remember watching a routine I saw Frankie do, and I tried to copy some stuff. And anyway, these students of mine were interested in doing performances and stuff. So I met with Bob Crease, who was a student of mine, and we met in a coffee shop. And I talked to him, and I actually found the original paper. I had written up something called preservation of music. I think it was the preservation. And I had this idea of getting a group of people together and renting a space for once a month, and getting live music, preservation of live music or something like that. I was trying, if I can find the original. And anyway, I typed up this list, and I sat down with Bob and I said, look, this would be a good idea. We get all these people together, form a group, and you rent a space for a month. You need like enough people, and you get a live band, and you have the opportunity to social dance as well as maybe perform, like do little routines at it as as an outlet. And then it was just for members only, and then you can invite friends and eventually encourage other people to become part of it. And I gave them an idea of all the people who I thought that I was teaching at the time who might be interested. Actually, my wife was one of the original founding members also of that group. But most of the members were my students, with the exception of Margaret Batachek. I seen her, but I can't say she was a student of mine because she was already dancing, and there were two other people on that list that were not students of mine, but all the rest were, and they formed they developed the Swing Society, and I give them a phenomenal credit because they worked so hard and they developed something really good. And my wife told me in the beginning they didn't want a conflict of teaching, like, you know, of someone teaching. But I remember that was a little issue, I believe, that they didn't. I think Margaret wanted to use it as a venue to develop classes and stuff. But I think that wasn't the focus in the beginning. It was just meant to have a place for people to dance and to do that. And you know, it changed as all things change, you know.
So it sounds like you had the conversation with Bob Crease and you sketched it out on that piece of paper, preservation of music or love of music or something. And then you invited all the members, and Margaret came along and some other people. But then it sounded like you said they developed it, or they worked hard to make it. So you kind of like in the beginning stage, but then they took it and ran with it.
They took it and ran with it. Yeah, no, they did great. I mean, I give them, wow, amazing job they did.
And you kept going there, so it was like the center existed, and they kind of did their own thing, and people intermingled.
Yeah, because you know, I worked at the studio. That was my job, and so I didn't want to have a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it wasn't, you know, I just thought it would be a great idea to have a place to continue the dancing and do that stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
And Frankie was teaching at the studio, but then so he didn't. But he was teaching for New York Swing Dance Society also.
Oh yeah, I mean the teachers themselves, you know, like if they wanted to teach, you know, they taught for the school. They could teach anywhere, you know, at any time, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
Was it other places, other studios where must have been in New York at this time that were having swing?
They were having swing classes, but no one was teaching Lindy Hop. No one was teaching that style of dancing. It was our studio basically was teaching the Lindy Hop, and once the Swing Society founded, maybe they started to. I'm not sure even, because I didn't follow. I don't think there was really much going on as far as the teaching with the Lindy Hop until later with the Swing Society.
Yeah. And when Frankie started to travel, I remember that he had to rush home to his classes that he was teaching in New York. It was always like important for him to come back home into the city to do his ongoing classes there. Yeah, he got more and more busy.
Yeah, it was great, and he's great, and they both were. They're very loyal to the studio. They appreciated the work, you know, and to come out of retirement and do this. It was a big thing. You needed a place like that to get to start. You know what I'm saying? because who would know? Like, who would, yeah, how could you do that without a place, you know? And it was a very great environment to do it in. We always were very welcoming and appreciative, and we try to do the best for the teachers as well. You know, it was awesome. It was awesome.
And the idea for Larry and Sandra to bring out the original dancers, did they continue to do that on a regular, like, okay, even if, you know, was it people coming and going into the studio a little bit to visit and of the original dancers, or once Frankie was in, he was by himself? And I'm thinking about the reunion that they had. Did that happen again?
No, as far as I know, it was only one time, the reunion, and the only two teachers that really worked that came with Frankie and Al and Frankie. Those are the ones basically who were teaching that style of dance at the school. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I heard that you did instructional videos together with Frankie.
Oh, and it wasn't really instructional. It was like sort of just trying to what was it? Document the steps.
Yeah.
And so Sandra felt like we should document the steps because that's important to preserve what we did. And so, yeah, it was okay. You know, I would assist Frankie, and he would dance. He would show me the steps. Now I would have to do the women's part. He would do the man's part, just to kind of get the steps out there. It was a little awkward in the beginning, you know. What are you gonna do, you know? But we got the material down. I wasn't excited about how I managed to do that, but we did the best we could, you know. It was fun.
I mean, what a position you had to be part of the studio and have the chance to work so closely with them.
Oh, yeah, I feel really blessed to have been in that opportunity.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate in my life, not only to study with two great dancers like that, but to study with so many great dancers that Sandra brought into the studio of all styles. I was just so fortunate to be able to have that exposure. And really, I mean, who could say that? I mean, it's really, it's an amazing thing, you know. I'm very happy that I had those experiences.
So you're saying if you were there to learn salsa, she brought in some authentic old timer in the salsa scene as well as it would. I mean, there, Al and Frankie, they brought in. Is that correct?
Exactly. She would do the same. We had great dance teachers. They would come in. Some of them worked out, and some of them didn't. Some of them just were not reliable to come. Like we would schedule a class with someone. They would come. When they came, they taught great class, but sometimes they just wouldn't show up. They just didn't come. And so after a while, like, that didn't work out. But we would always try to get them in to train the teachers. She would always have them do a couple hours of training and just get everyone to feel what these people were trying to teach, just to influence the other teachers, because we still taught those dances, but she didn't feel like she wanted us to try to teach as close as possible to what people danced, not a book telling you how to dance.
There's a slight difference there. I don't know exactly how, but I think you're onto something. So if you think back about the classes then that Frankie and Al had, and how people danced and how people dance today, what would you say it's the biggest difference?
Wow. When I look at the people today dancing, I'm impressed, really. I mean, I'm amazed at the standard of dancing that has developed. I mean, the level of the ability level and what they do it's quite amazing how far they've taken it. There's only one thing that I kind of feel is missing a little bit is there's a innate feeling that comes across, a naturalness and a simplicity that I feel when I watch, even though I'm super impressed and they really are very good at what they do. That's missing. That in my sense. sometimes I feel it's what's happening is there's an expression. It almost seems overworked to me sometimes, and not natural. It's like kind of like, it's great. They do this great stuff and they do all this stuff and it's interesting. But I don't know. Maybe I just come from a different time. I came from a different period, and there's a quality that I don't see in the dancing that I don't know, it comes with, maybe it comes with age, maybe it just comes with the time period that those people danced. It's a different time, and it's a different expression now. People would be,
and different influences were a different time now. But you had the chance to experience what you did, so it's interesting to hear when you kind of like, go between.
Absolutely. And people today don't want to dance the same as what they did back then. And that's understandable. Even the Lindy Hoppers, maybe when they first came out with the dance, the older generation was saying, "What's going on here? We don't like this stuff." It's like every generation does what they have to do, and it's very creative today. I think they tied a lot of stuff together. It's beautiful in that respect. And I guess I'm a traditionalist. I feel that there's a benefit to learning and maintaining something, or at least learning something in a true sense, the style and the feeling, and then later adapting to a change is good because you know the original. But when you don't know the original and you just go for the change, sometimes you may miss something. That's all. And
so is that how would you speak a little bit more to that? If someone is really ambitious and interested in the Lindy Hop, in the way it looks, and be part of the scene, but also want to bring the past and the story and the tradition with them, what would you advise them to? They are new to this, and how, if they want to become a great Lindy Hopper?
Wow, that's interesting, because I think it's a feeling, and a feeling comes from, it's hard when you don't have the connection, like to develop a feeling in a movement, in a dance. Okay, I guess just watch a lot of the old footage maybe, and the problem with what we get to see is there's a difference in performing and social dancing. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of what you have reference to is performing. It's great performing. Like you see, Hell's a Pop, and you see all that. It's great. And that's a level of dance that's different from social dancing. When you saw Al's social dance, it's not the same as performing in Hell's a Pop. And those things don't work the same on a social dance floor. And so, there's a place for everything, and it all has value, but it may not work. That's the problem with when you look back at the past and you see things, and we try to, I've done that with many dances too, for myself, even older dances, just try to copy what I see, but you have to recall what is it you're copying? It's a routine that was performed. Okay, so what is the value of that in social dancing? It's a little harder to place that, you know what I'm saying? So what can I tell them to do? I guess to just, I think with any dance is to take time and to take time to feel what you're doing when you dance, and listen to the music, and just take more time to try and connect to what you're doing, how you're dancing, not just what you're dancing. Like, there's a difference. I think you need time and time to absorb the feeling and the music. I think you can absorb a feeling, but it takes more time, and rather than just running through steps and stuff. That's valuable. I mean, you can learn both ways. You can learn from learning a lot of material, and you keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until you have a breakthrough and understand how that material becomes a part of you in your body, and naturally you can dance much more fluid. But that takes time. That takes time.
And did Al and Frankie talk to those two, the performance side of things and the social? Did they like separate it in the way you kind of like do it now? Did they speak to those two sides?
I don't believe I remember that. I know when I studied with Frankie, you know, he would create routines for us to dance, and the routines were meant to, you know, the ones I did with Frankie were meant to be performed. So that, and in that, you know, you're learning, you can use those socially, but you know, I guess Frankie danced a lot of his material socially as well. It was just, but maybe not to the extreme of all of those things. But Al was less. Al was more social dancing when he taught the classes. And as far as the routines, he did separate it. He said, this is the Big Apple. This is how we dance the Big Apple. Or this is the Charlestons. These Charlestons we would dance separate, and these Charlestons we would dance together. He did make a point of that. Al did separate the difference between those things, whether or not he was saying that, you know, I never heard him really refer to that as performing necessarily, but he just made a difference that, like, this is social dancing, this is what we do, because you want to hold a person in your arms. He said, this is how you dance, you know, when you want to stand up.
Did you find that people in classes were interested in their past and in the history, and asked them questions about how it was for them when they grew up around the great musicians and dance floors and performances?
I guess maybe some students were. Most of the others were just enjoying the idea of dancing in the class, and some of them were interested in the history, I suppose. But I don't recall that per se, like them asking that many questions. Maybe Bob Crease, because he was very into history. You know, people who want to know more about history, I guess they get more into that. On my part, when I was studying with Al, I would ask him about particular. I asked him about the boogie woogie once, and he was surprised that I asked him, "Why do you want to learn the boogie woogie?" And I remember my mother, when she danced at home, she'd say, "Oh, this is the boogie woogie." She would show me some things, and I remember that. And so he would go through this whole routine of teaching me the boogie woogie, and he was really funny about that. And
so so Paul, when you say boogie woogie, what do you mean? Because it's so many versions of the European competition boogie woogie. You know, what do you mean when you say?
Well, this is how Al, when I first asked him what Al did, he looked at me and he stepped away from me and he started walking around me, imitating a woman. And then he turned and he said, "What you looking at?" And I laughed, and he said, "The boogie woogie is very like it's I guess it's kind of a risque form of dance step that they did to boogie woogie music." And then he showed me variations of what you do when you dance to boogie woogie. And he showed me exactly the steps and some variations of that. And then he said, "Did you know?" And he put on a song, it was the Jersey Bounce came on. And he said, "You know, this is what you do to the Jersey Bounce. This is a song." And he lifted himself upright and he did this kind of very light style of triple time. And it was interesting because his whole posture changed. And he said, "You know, that's the Jersey Bounce." You know, had a little up bounce, not a down bounce, an up bounce. And it was interesting. And he would show me the differences of some of the styles of that was popular, like at the time, you know. And he would try, like, he was good at that. Like he was able to do things like that. And for instance, I asked him once about jitterbug. I said, "So what's the deal with jitterbug?" You know, and he shook his head and he said, "You know something? You know what jitterbug is?" He says, "You drink a pint of scotch, and he says you go on the floor and you go crazy." He said, "That's what we used to look at and call people jitterbug." He said, "We didn't consider jitterbug as good dancers. They were just all over the place." And so, you know, we have these ideas of these names, but when you talk to people from the era and the people who were really dancing at that time, they can tell you what those terms really meant to them, where they came from. We assume we know, like, oh, jitterbug is a good term or something, but in his mind, no, it wasn't something that was, so things like that. I lost my train of thought. Where are we?
Yeah, the whole boogie woogie thing, and he went, through different kinds of versions and could really explain it well to the music and express it. It sounded like, yeah. So this is super interesting. We could go on for another 2 hours, but I'm going to try to wrap it here. I think wrap it up. Okay. Anything, Paul, that you're thinking of that we haven't touched on, or you think would be valuable to bring out at this point?
Let me think. I suppose. No, I suppose we covered a lot. I mean, I don't know if I was just rattling on.
No, you were great. You were perfect.
But I think the main thing is for people to understand that no one person or one place develops anything on their own, and that all things come from people who share with each other, and nothing is created solely or can be taken credit by any one particular person, or we all come from our experiences with other people. Everything that comes from what we have is not our own. It's shared with many people, and many people contribute to it. If it wasn't for me meeting Sandra and Larry, I would not have had the experience of meeting Al and Frankie. And if not have studied with Al and Frankie, I would not have met so many wonderful students and nice people. And from that, developed a whole world of dancing. And those people influence new people, and it goes on and on. And we should understand that that's like the process, and that's really, we should never take credit for anything, because nothing belongs to us. We only are sharing everything in this world with each other, and we hope we share good things, and positive things to help encourage everyone to continue. That's the only thing we can do in our life. I mean, that's all I have to say.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's a great note to finish. Thank you, Paul, for being here with me and sharing your part of the history. It happened. You were there before many other of us were there, and you certainly did your part in it and shared with so many your joy and passion for the dance, and had the privilege to work with the people we know of. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much, Eva.
Absolutely. Okay. Goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye.